Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. And today is a very specific video. I realized yesterday that I had no content waiting for the rest of September. I hadn't planned anything, and I needed a video, and I needed one relatively quickly. I have plenty of ideas now, and this video in particular was born out of one of those ideas, which I will talk about more when I get to that section of this video. But it's also related to a blog post I wrote 2 weeks ago, and I will link that down below. And that is the state of Catholic fiction. And I'm not talking about non-denominational, generic Christian fiction. I am talking specifically about Catholic fiction that is marketed as Catholic fiction, that is Catholic. When you pick it up and read it, you know it is Catholic. It is written by Catholics. It is Catholic fiction. And it is incredibly difficult to find. Like, if you just do a random internet search for Catholic fiction, you are not going to come up with anything. And if you search on Amazon, you're really going to have to be specific and search. And that goes for, Barnes & Noble, Half Price Books, Books A Million. It doesn't matter. Your favorite Christian store. You're unlikely to find Catholic fiction in your favorite Christian store, in my experience. And I am not sure what is driving it. I know that it needs to change. And that starts with readers, sharing it. It starts with readers saying, why aren't you publishing more of it? And then it's on publishers and Catholic retailers to do a better job of promoting, stocking, talking about their Catholic fiction, and pricing it appropriately. There are some books, I'm not going to talk about them, I haven't read them, that are Catholic fiction mysteries, but they're under 100 pages, or right at 100 pages, and they're $20 a book. No. I'm sorry, I am not buying a $20 paperback that's less than 100 pages and thinking I'm getting a good value for my money. First of all, that's a short story. I don't like short stories. And you could put all of them in a collection for $20 and I might buy that. But I don't know what the problem is. But it needs to change, and we need to stop being so hesitant about talking about it. So, I'm going to flap my jaws today. I'm going to talk about Catholic fiction that sits on my shelves, and I pulled one Tolkien. I have others Tolkien sitting on my shelves, but Tolkien we're just going to cover in general. There's two others I'm going to talk about. I don't have any sitting on my shelves these days. I did at one point, so let's talk about those two first. First would be C.S. Lewis, and he's probably best known for his Chronicles of Narnia. And then there is his adult fiction, like the Screwtape Letters. And it is fabulous. It is well written. It is engaging content for the appropriate audience. The other one is G.K. Chesterton, who wrote the Father Brown mystery series, which if you have watched that on PBS or your BritBox app, are from Chesterton. They are great mysteries. They are classic mysteries, and no one reads them anymore. No one talks about them, and I need to change that on this channel as well. So there will be Father Brown content coming. I am sure. Probably next year, but I'm definitely going to talk about Chesterton more because I love those books. And first sip of coffee of the day. So Tolkien is a Catholic author. He wrote the Lord of the Rings series and the Hobbit and the Silmarillion and all those other collected works. And he was such a... I relocated the book. Where is it? Okay, I don't know where it is off the top of my head. Here it is. Devout Catholic that when he fell in love with his wife Edith, he she converted because he couldn't marry her unless she converted. That was the strength of Tolkien's faith. And throughout their friendship, and I was going to read this year and it's not going to happen. This is the only nonfiction book I'm mentioning. This is The Fellowship, The Literary Lives of the Inklings, and this talks about the relationship between Tolkien, Lewis, Barfield, and Williams. And the reason I mention this is that through the course of their friendship and their lifetime together, Tolkien converted Lewis not just to Christianity, but to Catholicism. His faith is evident throughout all of his books. His faith was an example. And when we talk about Tolkien these days, we talk about him as being the father of fantasy and the quintessential, high fantasy author, the one everyone copies, but we don't talk about his faith. And if you disassociate Tolkien from his faith, he would not only be flabbergasted, he would be outraged. For him, they were not a separable thing. He was Catholic to his core, and it was a fundamental part of him, and it colored and flavored the rest of his, life's work. And that very much includes the Lord of the Rings. So I don't know how you talk about him or his works and not talk about his faith, because they were not separable things for him. Okay. Before we do that, I should probably mention this. I haven't read it yet, but I do own The Divine Comedy by Dante, who is most definitely Catholic. And it will undoubtedly be full of Catholic allegory that I will understand. I am starting this next week, so I will let you know. But yeah, Tammy, Dante was Catholic. That is enough about the old guys. Let's talk about some new stuff. I have a stack of books. 4 different authors. Same. Okay, back to what I was saying. So I have 5 books. I have read 3 out of the 4 authors of these 5 books. They are all published by Chrism. So let's talk about the 3 I have read. This is not going to be a surprise to anyone who regularly watches this channel. First up would be the Molly Chase series by Rhonda Ortiz. And the first one is In Pieces. Book 2 is Adrift. And God willing, book 3 will be published next year. This is historical fiction. And as you've heard me say many times on this channel, it is among the best historical fiction I have ever read in my life. She could teach a masterclass on how to write historical fiction. And this series absolutely has blown me away. It is romantic. It is thriller. It is unexpected. It is true to the time period. It's set in America, not in Europe. I will link all my reviews down below for this series. It isn't a surprise that I'm going to mention this as Catholic fiction. I absolutely love this book. I absolutely love this book. And the next author I have read out of these would be Rebecca W. Martin, Love in the Eternal City. This is the first book in the Swiss Guard romance series. I recently just read this. I will link that down below as well. If you want banter and faith and romance set in love and an unexpected thriller at the end, run, don't walk. This is just an absolutely fabulous exploration of Rome, finding oneself, faith, love, all the things. It's absolutely fabulous. Okay, so the two I haven't read. I will do. First up would be To Crown with Liberty by Karen Yulo. This is set in, I believe, Louisiana? Yes, Louisiana. And I really need to read this. It hasn't fit in yet, and I want to. I will read you the back. New Orleans, 1795. In the wake of the French Revolution's reign of terror, Alex de Morinville Carpentier, a former lady-in-waiting to Marie Antoinette, now married to her gardener, seeks peace and security in the Spanish colony of Louisiana. But her journey into the man-eating swamp called Attakapas reopens the wounds of her old life in France. Alex is forced to reckon with the choices that saved her life at the cost of her honor and perhaps her soul. In revolutionary France, the old world is dying. The quest for liberty, fraternity, and equality has become a nightmare where the price of dissent is blood. In the wilderness of Spanish Louisiana, a new civilization is beginning to emerge. But in this budding new world, the slave trade perpetuates the systems of oppression that sparked the revolution. Caught between old and new, scarred by trauma and grief, will Alex ever find a home where she can truly be free? I want to read this. I really want to read this. I need to make time in my schedule. Yeah, I know. Don't ask me when that's going to happen. And I love this cover, by the way. I do. I love this cover. Okay. And the next one I haven't read is The Oyster Catcher of Southwark by Erica Colohan. And I admit this cover is not super appealing. But I will read you the back because the back makes up for the cover. Philadelphia, 1897. On the shores of the Delaware River, Italian Catholic Mary Parango dreams of a happily ever after. However, when she defies her family and runs away to marry Jacob, a Jewish boy, her fairy tale takes an unexpected turn. Disowned by her father, abandoned by Jacob, and pursued by a jealous gangster, Mary's life spirals into tragedy, culminating in accusations of attempting to harm her own children and a harrowing end in an asylum. Philadelphia, present day. Bella, Mary's great-great-granddaughter, grapples with the aftermath of her recent divorce. Amidst her pain, a mysterious stranger named Sophie enters her life, claiming to be related to Jacob, the man who left Mary to her devastating fate over a century ago. Together, Bella and Sophie unravel the layers of Mary's haunting past, question the stories they've been told, and uncover the impact of these historical secrets on their modern-day lives. It sounds fabulous. It sounds fabulous. And maybe the cover is growing on me. So, those are the two I have yet to read. This is what happens when Tammy doesn't have enough coffee. I forgot a book. That would be Mark Maker by Sarah Jessica Woods. Mary Jessica Woods. Yes, I definitely need another cup of coffee. I have read this one. This is Catholic science fiction. It too is published by Chrism Press. I have reviewed this one. I will link that review down below. And this is one that sat with me for a while. And as it sat with me, I fell more in love with the book than I was at the conclusion of the book. This is I know that Mary Jessica is in the process of writing book 2. And this is a book that I need to reread because it's one of those, it's good on a surface level and it works. It isn't immediately apparent. The faith in the book, at least it wasn't to my brain. It may be to yours. But I truly enjoyed this book. I truly did, and I need to. We all know I don't reread very often, so if I'm saying I need to reread it, I missed some stuff, and I know I missed some stuff. So I'm going to reread this book, and I'm going to do a better job of understanding what I missed the first time. So, Catholic science fiction, published by Chrism. I am looking forward to them. I do have a okay, so that brings me up to the laptop. And what drove this video, other than my blog post, was I was floundering for ideas last night, and I realized that I could, A, for myself, and B, maybe it would catch somebody else's attention, go through the titles that I own on my Kindle and highlight some of those, on occasion. So A, I remember they're there, and B, maybe they catch someone else's attention. And sorry, I'm going to need my Kindle for this. I do have multiple titles on my Kindle that are specifically Catholic, and I decided to talk about those in this video as well. I do own some of them. Some are available on Kindle Unlimited, and I will purchase them separately. I just haven't done that yet. So let's talk about the ones I own. First up, I have not read this one. It was recommended to me by the wonderful Sharon Ann Peterson. That would be A Song for the Road by Kathleen Bassey. And I will read you the description. It's 1 year after the death of her husband and twin teenagers, and Miriam Tedesco has lost faith in humanity, and herself. When a bouquet of flowers that her husband always sends on their anniversary shows up at her workplace, she completely unravels. With the help of her best friend, she realizes that it's time to pick up the pieces and begin to move on. Step one is not even cleaning out her family's possessions, but just taking inventory, starting with her daughter's room. But when she opens up her daughter's computer, she stumbles across a program her daughter has created detailing an automated cross-country road trip for her and her husband to take as soon-to-be empty nesters. Seeing and hearing the video clips of her children, her Seeing and hearing the video clips of her kids embedded in the program, Miriam is determined to take this trip for her children. Armed with her husband's guitar, her daughter's cello, and her son's unfinished piano sonata, she embarks on a musical pilgrimage to grieve the family she fears she never loved enough. Along the way, she meets a young, pregnant hitchhiker named Dicey, whose boisterous and spunky attitude reminds Miriam of her own daughter. Tornadoes, impromptu concerts, and an unlikely friendship. Whether she's prepared for it or not, Miriam's world is coming back to life. But as she struggles to keep her focus on the reason she set out on this journey, she has to confront the possibility that the best way to honor her family may be to accept the truth she never wanted to face. It sounds fabulous. I have been assured that the faith is stellar. It, of course, doesn't come up as a faith book. So, we shall see. I am interested in this one. Again, it's one of those, when is Tammy going to have time? Okay, next up. I do own these two. The first would be Sign of the Cross by Anne Emery, which is book 1 in the Collins and Burke mystery series. And I own book 2, which I have not read. That is Obit. And the next book is due to be published at the end of this month, I believe. Yeah, end of this month. These are Catholic legal fiction. Think John Grisham in a Canadian Catholic setting. I absolutely love the first book. I will leave that video link down below. These are realistic legal Catholic fiction. Their first book is set in 1990. It is written. This is a long, old running series. It was published in 1990. And I absolutely loved this series. I love the fact that her writing is fantastic, but that she portrays Father Burke as a very human priest that has human weaknesses and is not perfect. And none of the characters in this book, and I can assume the entire series, are perfect. And that is necessary. This idealized characterization that is, common is not realistic in my opinion. Okay, I am currently reading I Am Margaret by Corinna Taylor. This is Catholic science fiction, and it is the first book in the I Am Margaret series, of which there are currently 7. I will read you the blurb. In Margot's world, the imperfect are recycled. Literally. Margaret Verrall dreams of marrying the boy she loves and spending her life with him. But she's part of the underground network of believers, and that carries the death penalty. But before she can be unmasked as a believer, she fails her sorting and is reassigned as spare parts. Bane swears to rescue her before she can be dismantled, but a chance to take on the system ups the stakes beyond mere survival. Now she has to break out of the facility or face the worst punishment of all, conscious dismantlement. It is not an easy read, but it is a very worthwhile read so far. I'm enjoying it. Next up is the wonderful Carolyn Asfalk. So she has books on Kindle Unlimited. I've read 2 of her Kindle Unlimited books. Those were adult fiction. She also has teenage Catholic fiction, which I'm choosing to skip. It's not a genre I typically enjoy. So her 2 adult Kindle Unlimited reads are Stay With Me and Come Back to Me. I recently read those in August. Again, I will link that video down below. These were absolutely fantastic contemporary Catholic fiction. They are younger protagonists, but they are not angst-ridden, self-absorbed characters at all. And both those books were absolutely fantastic. So I have one more by her. It is a Catholic contemporary romance. And again, this is another one I need to work in to my reading schedule. And that is All in Good Time. And I'll read you the blurb. With 3 rambunctious young children, Melanie Lombardi cannot see beyond the day-to-day struggle to maintain her home and her sanity since her husband's sudden death. A second chance at romance is not on her radar. Brian Perella is done with dating, resigned to being the fun uncle and never the dad, until he meets Melanie and her brood of lively kids on the sidelines of a Little League game. But when Brian uncovers a co-worker's secret, it reignites a temptation that Melanie can't know about. It's his secret to keep until an unexpected diagnosis brings everything to the surface, jeopardizing his future with Melanie and her children, who, when threatened by an unknown stalker, may need him now more than ever. It sounds so good, and it sounds so right up my alley. I need to read this one. I really, really need to read this one. Okay, up next is The Canna Mystery by David Beckett. This was published way back in 2013. I bought it then, and I have never read it. I believe this has the Catholic Guild seal, but it, of course, does not show on the cover, and it is not mentioned on the blurb. I am pretty sure this won the writing competition in 2013 for the Catholic Writers Guild. So I will read you the blurb. The book's plot tries to... This is going to be very convoluted. I apologize. The book's plot tracks a brilliant American grad student, Ava Fisher, summoned from her studies in Boston to solve an ancient puzzle. Reunited with an old flame, Ava is chased from Yemen to Egypt to Malta, and finally to Italy. The couple must rely on their wits as they struggle to stay alive and escape a melange of murderous terrorists, evil drug lords, and other ruthless villains. The meticulously researched plot involves Pope Benedict's resignation, Pope Francis's election, set against a backdrop spanning centuries. Real-world dramatis personae, plucked from the annals of history, play crucial roles. That is a very bad description. I will let you know. I need to read this. I've owned it for over a decade now and haven't picked it up. So it's one of those books, and this is part of the why I'm going to start this series, that you buy and you download and then life takes over and you forget are buried somewhere on your Kindle. This is one of those, it's buried somewhere on my Kindle books. I need to unbury it, read it, and file it away appropriately on my Kindle. Okay, so I have a couple more. I just bought this one. I just bought 2 books by this author. I've never read her. And so I'm interested. I know they are Catholic fiction. And I know most of her books involve horses. We all love a good horse story. So first up would be The Triumph of Angel's Comb. And this just came out on the 31st of August. With her doctrines under fierce attack, and the author, by the way, is Hilary Walker. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? With her doctrines under fierce attack, can the Catholic Church survive? We are in the year 2030 AD, and traditional Father Terry has been removed from active ministry. Now in charge of the new church's program for reviving the Hardy Dales pony breed, he must train the animals to replace motor transport in the name of saving Mother Earth. But his little community of canceled clergy is more interested in saving souls. They say secret masses and clandestinely use the ponies to catechize the local populace. Meanwhile, Father Terry is thrilled to be back with his first love, equines. Surely this is God's affirmation that being a Catholic priest is not his only calling. Satan dangles powerful incentives for Father Terry and his fellow priests to accept the new church's twisted morals until a spine-chilling celestial event announces that the time for wavering is over. Will God's priests serve him or follow the father of all lies? This book going to be right up my alley. Second book by her is the first book in a trilogy. The trilogy is called A Modern Catholic Trilogy, and that is A Truthful Man. And I will read you the back. He would rather risk losing his vocation than lose his soul. In his tiny parish on the English coast, Father James has remained untouched by the modernizing of the Catholic Church. But when he's handed evidence of serious wrongdoing by Mark Boulder, an ex-university friend, he is obliged to take it to his bishop. He refuses a bribe to drop the case, and the bishop brings swift retribution upon him. Mark is riding high until his brother-in-law, the bishop, warns him about the evidence from Father James of a scandal which could ruin his flourishing investment business. Alarmed, Mark tries to dissuade the priest from pursuing justice against him, for the sake of their old friendship. But Father James cares far more about the man's eternal salvation than his secular ambition. He stands firm and suffers more reprisals from his bishop. Details of Mark's malfeasance reach the media, and he becomes wanted by the police. With his reputation in ruins and shunned by his wife, his children, and the bishop, he realizes only one person can rescue him, the very priest whose vocation he has destroyed. Can Mark humble himself to ask the priest's assistance? If he does, why should Father James help him? If you know me, you know this sounds like something I really want to read. And yes, I really, really want to read this. Okay, editing Tammy. Somehow, in all the preparation for this video, I forgot to include an author, and I realized it while I was editing. So, I'm back to talk about her. So, that would be Angie Sue Dobbs. And I read my first Angie Sue Dobbs in July. I read my second in August. I will link those videos down below. That was Honorable Intentions and Second Chance at Love. They are books 1 and 2 in her Cedar View series. And Honorable Intentions was my first book by the author. And despite the editing and the proofreading problems, I absolutely loved Honorable Intentions. And I loved the last 60% of A Second Chance at Love. I talk about them in detail in the videos linked down below. So, sorry, the bird is also now out. So, if you're interested in those in particular, you can go watch those videos. But she does have another series that is a trilogy. That is the Forever Mine series. And the first book is called Perfect Timing. And it is a contemporary romance. I will read you the blurb. Waiting can seem endless. At least you can feel that way when you're waiting to find the man God has picked for you. Rachel Simpson understands the frustration all too well. A hurtful remark from her past boyfriend has left her self-confidence a bit low. But she trusts that God has a plan, praying he doesn't wait too long in revealing it. Then she makes eye contact with an attractive man after Mass. Rachel is intrigued against her will and tries to put his distracting good looks from her mind. Still, it seems for some reason he keeps appearing in her life at all the wrong times. Aaron Wellington is trying to figure out what is missing in his life. He has a successful practice and good friends, but he's struggling inside. The sight of a curvy brunette in church is changing that struggle from inward to outward. Is she the missing piece? This sounds intriguing to me. Like her other series, this series is on Kindle Unlimited. I am very much looking forward to this. Editing and proofreading can make or break a book. I understand that. But when the faith content and the storytelling is so good, you can overlook and overcome the occasional grammatical proofreading errors. And this is an example of that for me personally. If you're looking for faith that is recognizable as a Catholic, for theology you recognize, I highly recommend her books. If you're just looking for a good Catholic romance and you're not necessarily Catholic, or you want to understand what your Catholic friends believe, then yes, Angie Sue Dobbs is one of my 2 recommendations for understanding what your Catholic friends believe. The other very easy to digest version of that is Rebecca W. Martin, which I mentioned earlier in this video. So there you have it. Now to finish the rest of the video. Okay, last up for this video today is The Mystery of Julia Espacopa, which I'm sure I just butchered, by John I. Rigoli. This is a tale of ancient and modern Rome. It is the first book in the Vatican Chronicles series, and it is available on Kindle Unlimited. And I love the cover. I will read you the back. In ancient Rome, a woman flees for her life. Her enemies are those she once called brother. Hidden beneath her blue cloak are secrets men will kill for. Forgeries that prove the newly self-appointed bishops are not followers of the way, but pretenders who have seized power and will stop at nothing to shape this new religion to their own ends. Now Julia, a woman who once walked with Mary Magdalene and taught alongside Paul, must preserve the legacy of the apostles in the face of terrifying danger. 2,000 years later, classical archaeologists Valentina Vella and Erica Simone are tasked with advising the newly elected Pope on the historical legacy of women in the early Christian period. The women stumble across an ancient parchment buried deep in the Vatican archives, a document that has clearly been altered. They find themselves on the trail of a woman who may have been the first woman bishop in the Catholic faith. To reveal Julia's legacy will put them in the crosshairs of a venomous Vatican battle for power and supremacy. To stay silent would make them complicit in an ancient heresy and would betray the teachings that Julia sacrificed her life to defend. We shall see. It sounds interesting. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm willing to give it a try. It does sound like it has a political bent. We shall see. So, that is the Catholic fiction I own, or in hard copy, or on my Kindle. And I am going to make it a priority to have at least one Catholic fiction book a month, always on my pile of possibilities and being read and talked about. And I think that as Catholics, we need to make that a priority. Generic Christian fiction has a stranglehold, and we feel, forced into reading that and not our own faith because it's not promoted and it's not well publicized, and there are not enough of us talking about it. So I will kick the ball off rolling. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to make a point of talking about something once a month at least. And I hope you all, if you're Catholic, join me. If you're a general Christian fiction reader, I hope you give Catholic fiction a try. I honestly do. I hope you give Catholic fiction a try. So, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.